Admiral James Reed stood tall before the massive display screen in Earth's Space Command Center. His weathered face showed no emotion as laughter echoed through the galactic communication channels. The announcement of Earth's first seventh-dimensional vessel had turned into exactly what he had expected, a cosmic joke. "These humans," a purple-skinned diplomat chuckled, his translator barely keeping up with his amusement. "They barely mastered regular space travel a century ago, and now they claim to have built a 7D vessel. How entertaining." Reed's eyes moved across the room, taking in the reactions of his crew. Some looked down at their consoles, others clenched their fists, but all felt the sting of the alien mockery. The Archimedes, humanity's greatest achievement, had taken 15 years to build. Now it floated in orbit, its sleek black hull absorbing starlight like a shadow against space. Perhaps another alien voice joined in, this one belonging to a being made of pure energy. They confused their dimensions. Surely they meant 4D travel, which would still be impressive for such a young species. More laughter followed. Dr. Emily Porter, the lead scientist behind the project, stepped forward. Her gray hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her eyes sparkled with quiet confidence. "Admiral," she whispered, "they'll understand soon enough." Reed nodded slightly. He remembered the day Porter had burst into his office, her theories about dimensional travel turning everything they knew upside down. While other species tried to force their way through dimensions like a drill through rock, humans had found a different path. The mockery continued on screen. The most advanced races in the galaxy, beings of pure energy, creatures who had mastered gravity itself, species that had been traveling through space when humans were still figuring out fire, all united in their dismissal of human achievement. "The Council recognizes Earth's ambition," announced the head of the Galactic Council, a tall crystalline being whose voice seemed to ring like bells. "However, we must remind our young friends that false claims of technological advancement are not looked upon favorably. Even our most advanced members have only achieved 5D travel, and that after millennia of development." Reed stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. "We understand your skepticism. The Archimedes will demonstrate its capabilities in due time. We request permission to present our vessel at the next council gathering." This brought a fresh wave of amusement from the assembled aliens. Granted, the crystalline being chimed, barely containing what passed for laughter in its species. "We could all use some entertainment at the next gathering." As the transmission ended, the room fell silent. Engineer Marcus Stone, who had spent the last decade turning Porter's theories into reality, spoke first. "They think we're jokes. All of us. Everything we've worked for." "Let them laugh," Reed replied, turning to face his crew. "Throughout human history, every great breakthrough was met with doubt. The Wright brothers were mocked. The first space programs were called wasteful dreams. The first FTL drive was considered impossible." He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. "But we did it all. And we'll do this too." Porter pulled up a holographic display of the Archimedes. The ship's design was unlike anything in the galaxy. No visible engines, no conventional weapon systems, just smooth lines that seemed to bend space around them. "The mathematics don't lie," she said. "While they were all trying to break through dimensional barriers, we found the spaces between them. They see dimensions as walls. We see them as doors." Reed walked to the window, looking up at the patch of sky where he knew the Archimedes waited. "Begin final preparations. In 3 weeks, we'll show the Council exactly what humanity can do. And then," he allowed himself a small smile, "then we'll see who's laughing." The room burst into activity. Technicians ran final checks, diplomats prepared protocols, and security teams reviewed procedures. Above them all, hidden from normal sight, the Archimedes pulsed with power that no alien race had thought possible, waiting for its moment to change the galaxy forever. The mockery would continue for 3 more weeks. Reed could live with that. After all, humans had a saying, "He who laughs last, laughs best. Dr. Emily Porter stared at the holographic equations floating in her private lab aboard the Archimedes. The soft blue glow of the numbers reflected in her eyes as she remembered the day everything changed, 15 years ago. She had been studying an old children's toy, a simple paper fortune teller, also known as a cootie catcher. While other scientists tried to punch through dimensions with massive energy, she had watched her young daughter fold paper into shapes that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions. That's when it hit her. "You're doing it again," Marcus Stone said as he entered the lab, carrying 2 cups of coffee. The chief engineer had worked with Porter since the beginning, staring at your equations like they're about to speak. "Look at this, Marcus," she said, expanding one section of the hologram. "Everyone else sees dimensions like floors in a building, up and down, level by level. But we were wrong. All of us." She manipulated the display, showing the new model of reality. Dimensions aren't stacked. They're folded like origami. We don't need to break through. We just need to find the creases and fold space itself. Stone sipped his coffee, remembering how this theory had been met with disbelief even on Earth. The scientific community had called it fairy tale physics at first, but Porter had proven them wrong, one experiment at a time. The hologram shifted to show footage from their first test, 5 years ago. A small probe, no bigger than a basketball, had done something impossible. It moved through space by folding it. Not like conventional ships that pushed against reality, but like a dancer moving through gaps no one else could see. "Admiral Reed wants an update on the core systems," Stone said, changing the subject. "The council meeting is in 2 weeks, and he's getting pressure from Earth Command." Porter nodded, pulling up the ship's diagnostic screens. The Archimedes wasn't just big, it was a revolution in engineering. Its hull was designed to bend with space itself. Its power systems worked in ways that defied conventional physics, and at its heart was something that still amazed her: the fold engine. "Remember when we first turned it on?" Stone asked, smiling. "All those instruments showing impossible readings." "Because they were measuring the wrong things," Porter replied. "Like trying to measure temperature with a speedometer." She brought up another display, showing the true nature of their creation. The fold engine didn't push or pull. It didn't tear or break. Instead, it found the natural bends in reality, places where dimensions touched each other like pages in a book, and simply turned the page. "We're getting energy readings from decks 3 through 7, Stone reported, checking his tablet. "The hull is responding perfectly to the spatial fluctuations." But he hesitated. "What is it?" "Some of the crew are nervous. They've heard stories about other species' failed attempts at higher dimensional travel. Ships lost between realities, crews found aged hundreds of years or turned inside out." Porter turned to face him fully. "Those ships tried to force their way through. We're not doing that. We're following the natural flow of space-time." She pulled up one final hologram, a complete model of reality as humans now understood it. "Look at this," she said softly. "Every other species sees straight lines and hard barriers, but the universe isn't rigid. It flows, it bends, it folds. We saw it because we're young enough to still question everything, creative enough to see new patterns." Stone watched the model spin, showing how reality curved and folded in ways that should have been impossible. "You know they'll try to stop us at the council meeting. They'll say we're too young, too reckless." "Let them," Porter said, shutting down the holograms. "We've done more than create a new type of ship. We've discovered something they all missed. The universe isn't a wall to break through. It's a dance partner, waiting for someone who knows the right steps." As if in response, the Archimedes hummed softly around them. Through the lab's window, they could see Earth spinning below, beautiful and blue. In 2 weeks, they would show the galaxy that humanity had learned to dance with reality itself. And maybe, Porter thought, they would teach the older races that sometimes the youngest eyes see what the wisest have overlooked. The Galactic Council's space station was a marvel of engineering. a massive structure that looked like a glowing silver flower blooming in space. As the Archimedes approached, Admiral Reed stood on the bridge, watching the reactions of other ships nearby. Some fled, others moved closer out of curiosity. "They're hailing us," said Communications Officer Tom Baker. "Multiple channels. Most of them are not very polite." Reed straightened his uniform, put the main council channel on screen. The crystalline being from their earlier communication appeared, its faceted surface reflecting countless stars. "Ah, our ambitious human friends. We see you've brought your impossible ship." "We're following the approved approach vector," Reed replied calmly. "Request permission to dock." There was a pause, filled with what sounded like chiming laughter. "Granted, though we hope you understand that our safety protocols require a full scan of your vessel." As the Archimedes moved toward its assigned dock, Dr. Porter rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy patterns. They're trying to probe the fold engine." "Multiple ships moving into blocking positions," reported the tactical officer. "They're not even trying to be subtle about it." Reed remained calm, though his jaw tightened slightly. "Let them scan. They won't understand what they're seeing anyway." The docking procedure went smoothly, too smoothly. As soon as they were connected to the station, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "Someone's trying to access our systems," Stone shouted from his engineering station. "It's not just a scan. They're attempting to steal our technology." Reed's voice cut through the chaos. "Activate protocol shield. Now." The Archimedes' unique design proved its worth. As the alien probes tried to force their way in, they found themselves tangled in folded space. Their scanning beams bent back on themselves. Their computer intrusions got lost in dimensional pockets that shouldn't exist. "Admiral." A new voice came through the comm system, smooth and artificial sounding. "We detect dangerous instabilities in your vessel. For safety reasons, we must insist on a full shutdown and inspection." "That's the Mechani Collective," Baker explained. "They're supposed to be neutral arbiters, but they want our technology like everyone else." Reed finished. He opened a channel to respond. "We appreciate your concern, but the Archimedes is perfectly stable. Any unusual readings are simply due to our unique propulsion system." Through the bridge windows, they could see a gathering crowd of aliens in the station's observation deck. Some pointed, others took readings, and a few seemed to be placing bets on when the human ship would fall apart. "Sir," Porter said quietly, "they're trying to access the engine core through the station's power connection. Should we show them?" Reed considered for a moment. "Not yet. Let them try." The next few minutes were almost comical. Each attempt to breach the Archimedes systems ended in failure. Energy probes disappeared into dimensional folds. Computer viruses got lost in loops of folded time. Physical scanning beams bent away from the hull like water flowing around a rock. "The Mechani are requesting emergency override of our docking clamps," Baker reported. "They're claiming we're endangering the station." "Are we?" Reed asked Porter. She shook her head. "No. Their attempts to breach our systems are causing the energy fluctuations they're detecting. We're just redirecting them." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. "They're trying to force the issue," Stone reported, "attempting to physically disconnect us and tractor us to a containment bay." Reed had seen enough. "Dr. Porter, please give our friends a small demonstration. Nothing too dramatic." Porter smiled and touched a few controls. The space around the Archimedes shifted slightly, not enough to cause harm, but enough to be visible. The tractor beams trying to grab the ship bent away like light through a prism. The observation deck erupted in chaos. Some aliens fled, others pressed closer to the windows. The Mechani's next transmission sounded distinctly less confident. This is impossible," the artificial voice stated. "Our readings indicate spatial distortions that cannot exist." Reed finished. "And yet, here we are. Now, shall we proceed with the scheduled council meeting? We have much to discuss about humanity's place in the galaxy." The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of the Archimedes systems, as the gathered species began to realize that perhaps they had underestimated humanity after all. The council chamber erupted in chaos before Admiral Reed could even begin his presentation. Emergency alerts blared through the station, their alien tones mixing into a cacophony of panic. "We have a Class 1 spatial anomaly in the Centauri Proxima sector," announced the crystalline council leader, all previous mockery gone from its chiming voice. "A void tear has appeared near 3 inhabited worlds." The massive display screen showed the horror unfolding. A crack in space itself, darker than black, was spreading like a spider's web across the star system. Around it, ships of various alien designs looked tiny and helpless. "Our 5D vessels are failing to contain it," reported a being of pure energy, its form flickering with distress. "The tear is growing exponentially." Reed watched as the most advanced ships in the galaxy tried to stop the disaster. They fired beams of exotic energy, deployed space-time stabilizers, and attempted to create dimensional barriers. Nothing worked. "Evacuation of the nearest planet has begun," someone announced. "But we need at least 40 hours to complete it. The tear will reach them in 10. Dr. Porter rushed to Reed's side, her tablet displaying rapid calculations. "Admiral, the tear's pattern. It's following the natural fold lines we mapped. This is exactly what our ship was designed to handle." Reed nodded slowly. "The Archimedes could reach the system in time. Yes, if we use the fold points I've identified, we can be there in minutes." The council chamber had descended into arguments. Different species blamed each other for the tear, proposed increasingly desperate solutions, or simply demanded priority for their own evacuation ships. Reed stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The Archimedes can help." The chamber fell silent, then erupted in dismissive responses. "This is not the time for human games," snapped a gaseous being. "Your primitive ship would be torn apart," warned another. The council leader raised its crystalline arms for silence. "Admiral Reed, while we appreciate your offer, this crisis requires our most advanced ships. The void tear is consuming 5D space itself. Your vessel would not survive the approach." "Look at your screens," Reed replied calmly. "Your most advanced ships aren't surviving the approach either. We can help. The only question is whether your pride is worth more than those 3 worlds." The display showed more ships failing, their attempts to contain the tear only making it grow faster. The death toll from the closest space stations was already rising. Stone's voice came through Reed's personal communicator. "Engineering is ready, sir. The fold engine is at full capacity. 6 hours until the tear reaches the first major population center," announced a Mechani observer. "Evacuation proceedings are facing severe difficulties." The council leader's crystalline surface rippled with visible distress. Around the chamber, representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species watched their best technology fail against the void tear. "Very well," the leader chimed finally. "You may attempt to assist. But know that if you fail, if your ship is lost, humanity will bear responsibility for delaying proper containment measures." Reed was already moving. "Dr. Porter, set the course. Mr. Stone, prepare the engine. All hands to emergency stations." The Archimedes disconnected from the station smoothly this time. No one tried to stop them. As they moved clear of the docking area, Reed opened a ship-wide channel. "This is what we built this ship for," he told his crew. "Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but to help when nothing else could. Every test, every simulation, every theory has led to this moment." Porter's hands flew over her console, mapping the fold points they would use. "Course plotted through 7-dimensional planes. We can reach the tear in approximately 8 minutes. Around them, the council station grew smaller. On their screens, they could see the void tear growing, reaching out with dark tendrils toward populated worlds. Ships fled from its edges, their engines straining. "Fold engine engaging," Stone reported. "All systems nominal." Reed took a deep breath. "Take us in." The Archimedes didn't blast away like other ships. Instead, space seemed to ripple around it, like paper being folded by invisible hands. The stars blurred, reality bent, and the ship slipped between the creases of space-time itself. Behind them, the Council watched in stunned silence as the human vessel did what should have been impossible. Their laughter had stopped. Now, all they could do was wait, and hope that humanity's impossible ship could do what all their advanced technology could not. 8 minutes of folded space brought the Archimedes face to face with chaos. The void tear hung in space like a crack in reality itself, its edges pulling apart the very fabric of the universe. The nearest planet was visible in the distance, its night side dotted with the lights of cities that would soon vanish if they failed. Multiple ships detecting our arrival, Baker reported from communications. They're ordering us to stay back. The tear has already destroyed 3 of their most advanced vessels. Through the bridge windows, they could see the remnants. Twisted metal and energy scattered across space, the failed attempts of the galaxy's finest ships to contain the disaster. Dr. Porter, Reed called, explain to our friends what they're doing wrong. Porter opened a channel to all nearby ships. You're trying to force the tear closed, she said clearly, like pushing against a crack in glass. But you're only making it worse. Space doesn't want to be forced. What would humans know of spatial mechanics? Came a scoffing reply. Our civilizations mastered dimensional theory before your species learned to make fire. And that's exactly the problem, Porter answered, her hands moving across her console. You learned the rules so well that you forgot to question them. Look at your own readings. The tear isn't breaking space, it's unfolding it. On their screens, they could see the alien ship's desperate attempts continuing to fail. Each energy beam, each dimensional anchor only made the tear grow faster. Stone, Reed ordered, show them what the Archimedes can really do. The chief engineer smiled, activating full dimensional interface. Fold engine at maximum capacity. The Archimedes began to change. Its hull, designed to work with space rather than against it, shifted like liquid metal. The ship wasn't fighting the void tear. It was adapting to it, becoming part of the space around it. Impossible, came shouts over the comm. Those readings cannot be real. Porter's voice was steady as she explained. You see dimensions as separate layers, like floors in a building. But they're not. They're connected, folded together like paper. The tear isn't breaking through them. It's unfolding them too quickly. So we're not going to fight it. We're going to refold it, Stone finished. The Archimedes moved closer to the tear, its hull now rippling with patterns that hurt to look at directly. It wasn't just operating in 3 dimensions anymore, or even in 5. The ship was existing in all dimensions at once, finding the places where they connected. Full power to the fold engine, Reed commanded. Dr. Porter, begin the sequence. Porter's theory, the one that had been mocked for years, was finally showing its true power. The Archimedes didn't shoot beams or create barriers. Instead, it began to influence space itself, encouraging it to fold back into its natural pattern. Look at the edges, Stone called out. It's working. The void tear's growth had stopped. More than that, its edges were starting to curl inward, like paper folding itself back into shape. The Archimedes moved around it in ways that shouldn't have been possible, touching points in space that existed in multiple dimensions at once. By the eternal stars, breathed an alien observer. They're not forcing it closed. They're asking space to fold itself back together. Porter nodded, though they couldn't see her. Exactly. The universe doesn't need to be conquered or controlled. It needs to be understood, respected. The tear was shrinking now, its deadly edges curling in on themselves. The Archimedes danced around it, less like a ship and more like a conductor leading an orchestra of reality itself. 3 minutes to complete closure, Stone reported. All systems functioning perfectly. Reed opened a channel to the watching ships. This is why we succeeded where you failed. You tried to master space. We learned to work with it. The alien vessels hung back, their crews watching in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The humans, the primitives they had laughed at, were doing something that violated everything they thought they knew about physics. As the last of the tear folded in on itself and vanished, the Archimedes returned to its normal configuration. Space settled back into its natural state, as if the tear had never existed. Tear contained, Porter announced, allowing herself a small smile. All dimensional readings returning to normal. In the silence that followed, Reed knew that everything had changed. Humanity hadn't just solved a crisis, they had revealed a completely new way of understanding the universe itself. The galactic laughter had stopped. The time for learning was about to begin. The return journey to the Council Station was very different from their departure. Instead of mockery and suspicion, the communications channels were filled with awe and urgent questions. The Archimedes led a parade of alien vessels, each trying to scan and understand how a primitive human ship had accomplished the impossible. They're requesting every detail about the fold engine. Baker reported from his communications station, his screen flooding with messages. The Mechani are offering significant technology trades. The energy beings want to send their top scientists. Reed stood at the center of the bridge, watching the stars through the main viewport. Send them all the same response. We'll discuss everything at the council meeting. Dr. Porter was still at her station, reviewing the data from their success. The fold patterns work even better than our simulations predicted, she said, excitement clear in her voice. When we let space fix itself naturally, the energy cost was minimal. Speaking of energy, Stone called from engineering. You all might want to see this. He sent a display to the main screen. The void tear had left traces in space, not damage, but something else. The Archimedes sensors showed new patterns in the dimensional fabric, like wrinkles in cloth that had been folded and unfolded. Are those what I think they are? Reed asked. Porter nodded, her eyes wide. Natural fold lines. The tear revealed them. We can see the actual structure of space now, clear as day. This changes everything. The Archimedes approached the council station, which now blazed with lights and activity. Ships of every species had gathered to witness what would happen next. They're giving us priority docking, Baker announced, sounding surprise. And the council is ready to receive us immediately. As they docked, Reed gathered his senior staff. Remember, he told them, we're not here to lord it over them. We're here to help. Humanity just proved we can contribute something unique to the galaxy. Let's show them we can be gracious about it. The council chamber was packed beyond capacity. Species that had never attended regular sessions had sent emergency representatives. The crystalline council leader's surface sparkled with barely contained energy. As Reed and his team entered, the chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, and consciousness focused on the humans who had changed everything they thought they knew about space travel. Admiral Reed, the council leader, began, its chiming voice carrying a new note of respect. We find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. Your ship's performance has revised many of our fundamental assumptions about dimensional physics. Don't you mean all of them? Came a voice from the crowd, triggering a wave of murmurs. Porter stepped forward, her tablet displaying the data from their mission. If I may, she said, I'd like to show you exactly what happened. The chamber's main holographic display came to life, showing the void tear event from the Archimedes sensors. The aliens watched in fascination as the display revealed what their own ships had missed: the natural fold lines in space, the way dimensions naturally wanted to flow together. We didn't invent this, Porter explained. We just learned to see it. While everyone else was trying to force their way through dimensions, we discovered they were already connected. All we had to do was find the right way to fold. Stone added his own technical data to the display. The fold engine doesn't break physics. It works with it. That's why it needs so little energy compared to conventional dimensional drives. The chamber erupted in questions and demands for more information, but Reed raised his hand for silence, And to everyone's surprise, he got it. "What happens next is up to all of us," he said. "Humanity is ready to share this technology, to work with all species to develop it safely. But we need to be partners, not masters or students. The universe has shown us that no one species has all the answers." The council leader's crystalline form seemed to glow brighter. "You offer to share this freely, after our previous treatment of your species." Reed smiled slightly. "The void terror proved that space doesn't care about our rivalries or pride. We survived today because we worked with nature instead of against it. Maybe we should work with each other the same way." Looking around the chamber, at faces and forms that had sneered at humanity just hours ago, Reed saw something new in their reactions. Respect. Not just for the Archimedes or its technology, but for the human way of thinking that had made it possible. The turning point wasn't just in space travel. It was in how species would work together from now on. 6 months after the Void Tear incident, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, sharing knowledge across species barriers that had seemed unbreakable just half a year ago. The massive display screen showed ships of various designs, all incorporating elements of the revolutionary fold engine technology. Admiral Reed watched from his new position in the Council's executive circle, the first human ever granted such status. Dr. Porter stood at a teaching station, surrounded by beings of all forms as she explained the principles of dimensional folding to yet another eager class. "The first joint species fold ship completes testing today," Baker reported, now serving as humanity's chief liaison officer. "The mechani provided the computational systems, the energy beings handled power distribution, and we contributed the core technology." Reed nodded, remembering how different things had been when they first arrived. "How many ships are now equipped with fold detection sensors?" "Over 1,000, Baker replied. "There hasn't been another void tear since we started monitoring the natural fold lines. We can see them forming before they become dangerous." Across the chamber, Stone was working with a team of alien engineers. They were designing a new generation of ships that could navigate dimensional space even more efficiently than the Archimedes. The crystalline beings provided structural insights, while gaseous aliens contributed their understanding of energy flows. "Admiral," the council leader chimed, approaching Reed's position. "The results from the deep space expeditions have arrived. Would you like to share the news?" Reed stepped up to the main platform. The chamber quieted as he prepared to speak. 6 months ago, this same audience had laughed at humanity. Now they listened with genuine respect. "The Fold Mapping Project has discovered something extraordinary," Reed announced. "The natural fold lines we detected form a network throughout the galaxy. It's like a web of dimensional shortcuts, waiting to be used. With our combined technologies, we can reduce travel times between any 2 points by roughly 90%. The chamber erupted in excited discussion. A new age of exploration was beginning, with humanity helping to lead the way. Porter's voice carried over the excitement as she added, "And we've only mapped about 10% of the known galaxies so far. Imagine what else we might find." More importantly, Stone joined in. "Every species brings something unique to this project. The mechani's precision, the energy being's power control, even the crystalline understanding of structure. We need them all." Reed watched as former rivals worked together, sharing insights and building on each other's ideas. The Archimedes, parked in a place of honor near the station, had become a symbol not of human superiority, but of what could be achieved through collaboration. "We're receiving requests from frontier worlds," Baker reported. "They want to join the Fold Mapping Project. Species that never worked together are forming research teams." A young alien scientist, one of Porter's students, raised an appendage. "Dr. Porter, we've detected unusual fold patterns near the galactic core. They don't match any known configurations." "Excellent," Porter replied, her eyes lighting up with the thrill of new discovery. "That's our next frontier. Who wants to help us explore it?" The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Teams began forming spontaneously, different species offering their unique capabilities to the mission. Reed felt a deep satisfaction as he watched. Humanity had done more than prove itself. It had helped create something entirely new. The galaxy was changing, becoming more connected, more cooperative. The preliminary designs for the new exploration fleet are ready, Stone announced. Each ship will have crew members from at least 5 different species, combining all our strengths. The council leader's crystalline form sparkled. And to think, we almost dismissed humanity's contribution. We forgot the most important scientific principle, that truth can come from unexpected places. Reed looked out the chamber's massive windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the next great discovery was waiting. But this time, humanity wouldn't face it alone. They had helped forge a new alliance, a new way of seeing the universe and working together. The next void tear we find, Porter said confidently, we'll face it as a united galaxy. As if to emphasize her words, a new ship passed by the window, sleek and powerful, bearing the marks of 6 different species who had worked together to build it. The galaxy was entering a new dawn, and humanity had helped light the way. Not with superior force or advanced technology alone, but with a simple idea that had changed everything. Sometimes the best way forward is to work with nature, not against it. And the same was true for working with each other. The laughter had stopped, but something better had replaced it, hope for a future that they would all build together.